It is so amazing to meet you both. I have loved Dead Boy Detectives. It has
Yeah.
filled the Buffy shaped hole in my heart in a way that I never expected. So thank you for that. I think it's the truth is I always really respond to like any story that is about a group of weirdos finding each other and creating a new family. And that absolutely delivered in this show. Um, Now obviously it's kind of a more fantastic and but at the same time, it does delve into some darker things, right? I want to start with you, Cassius. Obviously, this is a fantastical world. Thank you, Neil Gaiman. Um, but Crystal's dynamic with David is quite a potent metaphor for toxic relationships and the ways that they kind of haunt you even after they end. Can you talk a little bit about that dynamic?
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good way to put it. Sort of how they haunt you even after they've finished, or even once you've left that toxic environment. There's still sort of reminiscences of that kind of wear themselves into you a bit. And I think for Crystal, she definitely feels that throughout the season. And it's hard as well because with those types of things, and I think a lot of people can relate to, you don't really realize what's happened until you're in it, and by that point it's kind of, it feels like it's too late. And there's definitely a level, I think, of embarrassment that she feels to have to confess what happened to her, because I think she feels like she's let herself down or feels partly responsible, which I feel like a lot of people could relate to, even though it's not true. And but I think for Crystal, she definitely feels that.
Yeah. And I feel like that ultimately her story is pretty empowering in the way that she kind of processes that without spoiling it
Yeah,
for the
I like how you
audiences.
put that. Yeah, yeah.
So now you obviously have psychic powers, the others are ghosts, but I actually think Nico has kind of a superpower of her own. And it is this empathy and radical acceptance about of everyone around her, whether it's gay ghosts, like mean little parasitic sprites, former walruses, whatever the case may be. And I feel like it's so rare and so needed today. Is that something that resonates for you?
Absolutely. I mean, it's a superpower that I think is can be forgotten. Sensitivity can be used as a weapon sometimes, and we really find her owning that and finding her power and strength in that
Mhm.
and giving her
Yeah.
friends the space she needs. And I feel like we really see that flourish in both her relationship with Crystal, but also her relationship with Edwin, and allowing him to be the human that he missed maybe because he had passed away so early on in his life. And that quality is something that, like you said, is so needed today.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm grown and I love this, but I also think that this is a show that's going to really connect to different generations. And I feel like that is a character that I am hoping young people get to see because I feel like she is powerful because she is kind. And I don't know that we see that a lot. And I love that about her. Um, and then obviously, female friendship is something that I always really connect with. And I think that your dynamic, I mean, each you have individual relationships with each characters, but I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about Nico and Crystal's friendship and what it meant to give that kind of portrayal of female friendship on screen.
Yeah, I think it's funny because I think you said it before, they are like,
Foils to one another.
yeah, and they kind of make up for what the other one maybe
Mhm.
is having difficulty expressing or like
Yeah.
showing, which I think is quite good.
I also find that both types of confidence can exist on their own. Like
Mhm.
Crystal's bold sense of self and her like urgency to own everything that she does and her actions and her choices. Like that boldness is so beautiful and that confidence that she has that I think Nico sometimes yearns for. But there's also a space where quiet confidence can exist and they both give each other that space to grow. And we
Yeah.
see their friendship and it's nice to see where they end up in their
Yeah.
own adventure.
I also think like
Yeah.
with Nico's character, there's like for Crystal, I think would admire how much I think Nico owns who she is unapologetically, and Crystal is at a space where she's not able to do that. So to see someone else be so like accepting of themselves, I think is a nice thing.
I mean, I think one of the big themes, right, is to like self-discovery, you
Mm,
know, for
yeah.
each of the characters. They're all kind of on a journey with that. And in terms of like identity, by the end of the season, I feel like we pretty much know where Charles and Edwin lie on that sort of spectrum, but it's less defined, at least for me. It seemed to be less defined for both Crystal and Nico. I'm curious where on the spectrum you each see those characters, and hopefully season 2. Is that something you want to see further explored?
Yeah, definitely. I think they're both, especially for Crystal, like we leave her where she's still figuring out who she is and being okay with who she was and who she wants to be, which like we're all kind of going through that at some point as well. I would love to see more of that too. For sure. I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, and Nico learns from her friends about bravery, and so I feel like she's really stepped up to the challenge that they've laid out the whole season for one another, and she has such an open-ended, question mark at the end.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see, fingers crossed again, where that might go.
Awesome. So more specifically about sort of their sexual identities, like I think we know where Edwin and Charles land on that particular spectrum. And I'm curious, like, as you're creating these characters in your head, or perhaps getting direction from others, I don't know, where do you kind of see them sort of moving forward romantically if there's a second season?
I think like the world of the show is so vast and it's so big, and I think it exists outside of any binary ideas or set limits and structures. So I like the idea that we don't know, and there's an endless possibility of where the characters could go, and we're not tied down to anything, which I really like. So, and
it's such an exploration of love is love. Like that is the message of our show. Love is love, and every type of love can exist purely. And it's beautiful to see it all flourish.
Yeah, and like having storylines as well that are outside of that. Like I think we're so much more than just how we're perceived by people, or in terms of like set boxes. We have like other experiences, and there's so much, like you said, that's tackled in the show with friendship, with trust, with chosen family, with trauma bond. Like it's all up for grabs, which is just great. Right?
I love it. I feel like it's also kind of a reflection of like where we're going culturally. Like we're kind of getting like post-gender, post-sexuality. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. And again, I just want to say how much I loved this season, and I'm really, really crossing my fingers for season 2, because I mean, y'all left me with a lot of question marks.
That's really love to keep on their toes.
I love that.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you. Have an amazing day.
You too.
Bye.